I won't let my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis symptoms define me.
Emerge as you. In 2 clinical studies, Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, provided 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks in 7 out of 10 adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. In a study, nearly 7 out of 10 patients with 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks were still clearer at 5 years. At 1 year and thereafter, patients and healthcare providers knew that Tremfya was being used. This may have increased results. Results may vary.
Serious allergic reactions may occur. Tremfya may increase your risk of infections and lower your ability to fight them. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms of infection, including fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough. Tell your doctor if you had a vaccine or plan to.
Emerge as you. Learn more about Tremfya, including important safety information at tremfya.com or call 1-877-578-3527. See our ad in Food and Wine magazine. For patients prescribed Tremfya, cost support may be available.
This is a Bramble Jam podcast.
Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark review podcast. I'm Megan, a longtime Hallmark movie fan.
I'm Wendy. I'm a former Hallmark hater.
Y'all, today is a full circle Girls Gone Hallmark moment, and we're going to tell you all about it. But really quickly, outside of the podcast, please follow us on Instagram. We have 2 accounts. We are Girls Gone Hallmark, and we are also Megan and Wendy.
Hey, jump into our Girls Gone Hallmark Facebook group. It's full of very cool people who know their you-know-what about Hallmark. And I think they're going to be super excited about today's guest.
Speaking of, we are thrilled to welcome Danny Pellegrino to Girls Gone Hallmark.
Hello.
You may know him as the host of the hit podcast, Everything Iconic. He's a best-selling author. He is now, however, the writer and co-star of the upcoming Hallmark movie Deck the Walls. You know him for his witty takes on pop culture, Bravo, and all things nostalgic. And now he's here to chat about his leap into the Hallmark world. Welcome, Danny.
Hi, Megan and Wendy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you both. I love the Hallmark world, and so I'm so excited to sort of be a little part of it, and specifically with the Christmas movies. And so I'm just over the moon to get to talk to the 2 of you about it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so but before we dive in, and I told Danny a quick story in the DMs about this, but our listeners don't know. So in 2020, I listened to Danny's podcast, Everything Iconic, all the time. Every night, I listen to it when I go to bed. I fall asleep to his voice. But in 2020, he has casually mentions Hallmark movies, and I'm falling asleep. And at the time, Megan and I were doing like a lifestyle women's podcast, and I thought, Hallmark movies, that's funny. I've never seen one, and I know Megan and her husband watch a ton of them, and I'm like, wouldn't that be funny if Megan and I reviewed Hallmark movies, and the take is she's a longtime Hallmark movie fan, and me never had seen one and didn't really love them or the idea of them. And so here we are, Girls Gone Hallmark, 4 years later, 5 years later, and it's all thanks to you, Danny Pellegrino.
Oh, I'm so honored, and obviously I was so thrilled when you told me that when we were chatting earlier. But I'm so grateful for you listening. And how do you feel 4 years on? Do you like the Hallmark movies more, or?
I am a former Hallmark hater.
Okay,
I have my moments still,
Sure.
But now really into it, like, there's so many writers that I love, so many directors that I love, standout actors I love. So there's things that I look forward to. And for me, Hallmark has really made some progressive steps in storytelling that is outside their traditional Hallmark tropes. That's where I really love the changes that Hallmark has made. And
right.
those are the movies I love.
Even now they're incorporating, aside from diversity, and probably back in 2020 when I was talking about these movies, that was one of the big complaints I always had, was because I love the Hallmark Christmas movies specifically. And for so long I was watching these, the Countdown to Christmas lineup, and there would be 30 to 40 movies. And I'd say, where are the gay, I'm a gay man myself. And I would say, where are the gay people? Like, even even aside from the stars of these movies, their characters, there weren't many gay characters, or there wasn't a lot of diversity amongst these casts. And so it's been so thrilling to get to see myself and gay characters represented on screen as time has gone on. And Hallmark's been doing a great job of diversifying. And then aside from that, also incorporating things like a harder comedy into the movies, and still obviously maintaining that Hallmark brand that we all love, that we want the comfort and something that families can watch all together. But while expanding a little bit with humor or with romance or with, different genres even now that they're experimenting with, which is really exciting. And you mentioned the writers, and I should also just quickly mention that I worked with Tracy Andreen. So I had written a script that Hallmark had purchased, and then they had hired Tracy to sort of Hallmarkify it. So I got to work with her a little bit, and she's fantastic, the best. And so I just wanted to shout her out. But yeah.
She is awesome. She's one of our favorites.
We love her. And we had been digging for information, and there's not a ton out there publicly. So I'm glad you shared that with us.
Yeah, I know we're recording this before sort of anything has been really released about it other than a little synopsis, but I am super excited about it. I felt in such good hands because I felt like they really gave me the A-team with Tracy and our executive Camden Simmons, and then of course Wes Brown stars in it, and he's done a million of these. And so I was just so thrilled when they told me Wes was going to be in it, and Ashley Greene, and I just felt in such good hands. So I was thrilled about it.
Who's the director on this movie? Because we could not find that.
It was Jake Van Wagner, who he has worked on a bunch of these. I believe it's his first. He's worked on a lot of them, but I think it's maybe his first official directing for Hallmark. But he had a movie in Sundance, so he's an incredible director. Oh. So he was great. Yeah.
So as we talked, Deck the Walls is your first Hallmark movie, and you are both actor and writer on this film. So what sparked the idea? Where did this movie come from?
Initially, I had always loved these movies. I wanted to do a Hallmark movie. It was always on my bucket list for years and years and years. And even when I had finally gotten an agent, and my very first meeting, I was like, I really want to do a Hallmark Christmas movie. I love them. I watched them with my mom, and so it was a bucket list thing for me. And I had met with them, and they have their sort of stable of writers, so they work with people that like Tracy all the time. And so it is a little bit difficult to kind of break into that world, but I that was always my dream. And so I ended up just writing this movie, what they call on spec, which means you just sort of write it for free and hopes that somebody will want it. And it really originated from this idea of tablescaping. So I love tablescaping. That was kind of like the initial jumping off point. And tablescaping is very niche, although now there's like a documentary about tablescaping, but I love...
Are you a semi-homemade with Sandra Lee fan? Like that was the intro to tablescaping for me.
Yes, of course. Who doesn't love Sandra? But yeah, I find it very meditative, or, even before Thanksgiving or Halloween or whatever the holiday is, I love to go in my dining room. And I don't have kids, so I know people with kids sometimes can't tablescape because the kids will just come in and ruin the whole table, because I like to decorate it and just sort of leave it in the dining room, leave the table done. But I find it meditative to rearrange the decorations and the candles and all of that kind of stuff. So I will sit and putz with that for hours every holiday season. So that was kind of like the jumping off point, was like, oh, this tablescaping. And then that led to construction, design, interior design. And it kind of became this movie about a family that is flipping a house for charity, and I play the guy who owns the construction company. His name is Sal, and we have to call in my sister from the big city to come in and help with the interior design. And so I really wanted to make a traditional classic Hallmark movie about the big city gal coming to the hometown and do some little twists on it. So I think when you read the synopsis, you'll see that it is a big city gal coming home. She may or may not fall in love with the hunky guy from her hometown. I play her brother, but there's some twists and stuff along the way. And so I wanted to kind of make that Hallmark movie that I've loved for years and years and years, with a lot of those kind of tropes that we see oftentimes in these movies, but giving them a little bit of a twist.
You mentioned hard comedy earlier. Can we expect some comedy in this one?
Yeah, I haven't seen the final cut yet, so I'm anticipating that. But I was sort of shocked in a good way about like how much comedy we got to play around with on this movie. And so I'm excited to see the cut and to see, but I think that, there's going to be some laughs and yeah, there's some, if you listen to my show, there'll be little Easter eggs that, you might pick up on. And yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of laughs. I mean, I can go through in my head a million laughs. And we have Carolyn Hennessy, she's on General Hospital, and she's so funny. She brings a lot of hilariousness, and they let me be a little bit of a clown. And so there's hopefully some big laughs.
I imagine there's going to be some comedy. Those are my favorite. I mean, truly rom-coms.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really got to lean in and do the comedy part, which sometimes with these Hallmark Christmas movies, it's lighter on the comedy, but I feel like we got to play around. And Wes is so funny too. He plays Bryson in the movie, but we got to just have some fun. And they let us Jake, our director, Van Wagner, comes from a comedy background. So we got to play around with a little improvisation too and stuff. So I'm excited to see the comedy, especially.
I do think Hallmark is leaning harder on comedy this season. I mean, as we're recording this, the first weekend of Countdown to Christmas just dropped. And in the very first movie of the season, there's a joke about a safe word. And I was like, what's happening here? So I think we're seeing a lot of big leaps. You mentioned Wes Brown and Ashley Greene. Hallmark, I always feel like that's like the ultimate sign of respect when they're like, we're going to give you these heavy hitter actors. We're huge fans. We love these actors. So what was it like collaborating with them on screen and as a writer?
I was honored. I mean, yeah, I felt so grateful. And even as we were filming, we found out sort of at the end, or maybe it was even after we wrapped, about getting our release date was the day after Thanksgiving. So it felt like Hallmark really, they had a vested interest in us, which just felt so amazing. And yeah, Wes, I knew him from all of these movies he's done on the network, and so I couldn't believe that we got him. And then Ashley's so fantastic in the Twilight movies, and so working with them, I really loved the acting part of things because I have sort of a large role. I mean, it's one of the leading roles in it, and so I had most of my scenes are with the two of them, and so I had done smaller acting parts in the past, but this is sort of my first lead role or something this big, and. So getting to work with them, and they were just so nice. I didn't want to like hold things. I didn't want to slow things down, or I didn't want them to look at me and think, oh, he's a crappy actor or anything like that. And so my goal going into it when I knew that they were doing it was to just keep up with them. And ultimately they were so kind to me and we became so close. And I sort of love that part the most because you get so close with people. It's almost like a summer camp. And so we were together so much, and in between when they're setting up lights and doing all of that kind of stuff, they sort of send us off. And so getting to know them in those down times was really like the thing that I take most from the experience. It was just so lovely to get to know them, and they just couldn't have been nicer. I felt so lucky that we didn't have anyone being mean on set. And I don't know, I had never done anything like this, especially for such a long period of time. Normally I might go in and shoot a commercial or something, and it's one day or here or one day there. But this was such a long period of time that we were shooting, and it was just like nobody was mean at all. Like everybody was just so nice.
You're not the first to say that. We recently interviewed another writer who was so complimentary about the actors and everybody on set, and was so surprised like how cool and like the community was like super welcoming and everybody was engaged. And so that's really nice to hear.
Yeah, I think with Hallmark, they are a well-oiled machine in a lot of ways. And so the production companies that do these movies, they've done them a lot in the past. And so our producer, David Wolf, he produces a lot of these in Utah and shoots in Utah. So it's a lot of the same crew and stuff that will work on these. And yeah, I was going in, I'm like, wait, everyone is just this nice all the time. And there wasn't even like chaos or anything. It was just so smooth. And so I felt spoiled that everything went that way, because I'm sure it won't always be like that if I get to do others.
You talk about Hallmark being a well-oiled machine. We know that these turnaround times on these movies are tight, like 2 to 3 weeks. Was that hard to adjust to? I mean, I know you said this is one of your first times with this kind of role, but did you feel pressure? Like, we got this much time to get it done?
I was so nervous.
Yeah.
Megan and Wendy, you guys, before we started, I had these panic attacks. I had to go to Utah, I think like a week before, during like the pre-production period. And I was in the hotel room, and my boyfriend was with me, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I was having these panic attacks. It was too much pressure. And then after the first day, I was like, this is the best time ever. I can't believe in my head I even thought about not being able to do this, because it was just, so smooth and easy. And after that first day, it just, and I sort of think the pace of it is helpful in some ways, is from an acting standpoint, because you don't have time to overthink things. You just have to go, and you're shooting a lot of pages in a day. And I like that fast pace. I think I would struggle with something else, because you can almost overthink choices or overthink things. And so you don't have time. They're throwing you in the trailer, you're changing real quick, and you got to go to the next scene. So I like that. My background is more in comedy and improv comedy and stuff like that. And so the faster pace, I think, works for me.
Speaking of Salt Lake City, you filmed this movie in Salt Lake City, which is so different because most Hallmark movies are made in Vancouver. So that's cool that you got to stay somewhat local. I know, because I listened to your podcast, how much you love the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Did you get to go visit Beauty Lab and Laser? Like Megan and I went a couple years ago, and I made her go to the parking lot. She has no idea. I was like, we have to go sit in the parking lot. I'm sorry.
It's a national landmark. Of course, I couldn't go to Utah without arriving in that strip mall, which is like next to a dollar. Isn't it next to like a Dollar Tree or something, which is fantastic, which is exactly what I want. Yes, I love the Real Houses of Salt Lake City, and we were filming sort of up in the mountains. It was mostly in Midway, Utah, which is about an hour outside of Salt Lake. But yes, of course, I made it to the Beauty Lab and Laser. And then everywhere I would go, I would ask everybody, even the crew, a lot of Utah local crew. And so I was like, okay, who's worked on Salt Lake City? You know, like, what are the gals like? You know, I'm asking everybody. Or I would go into places for lunch, and I'd be like, so has anyone seen The Housewives? Or Carolyn Hennessy and I went to the Utah Crater. There's like a swimming in this cave crater thing. I think it's called the Utah Crater. But the Housewives had gone there on one of the episodes. And so, of course, I was asking everyone, like, okay, what was Lisa and Whitney were here? What were they like? And so, yeah, I was trying to get as much intel as I could. But it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
I'm sorry. You didn't get to meet up with any of them while you were there?
No. I wanted to, but
what
it was
shame.
I know. It was really such a whirlwind, because like we talked about earlier, everything was sort of jammed in, and we were up in the mountains. And so there was just sort of a week pre-production that I was in Salt Lake. And when I was there, I was so stressed about starting that but I did go to the Beauty Lab and Laser parking lot to center myself before production.
Sure. I have to tell you, when we pulled, Wendy, we mapped it and we pulled in, I was like, this is it. She's like, I got to take a picture. And I'm like, in front of the stucco wall.
And I think we rolled in on a Sunday, and in that community there,
nothing's open.
So yeah.
It was funny in the mountains. It was even small. It's very small town in Midway, and beautiful. Loved it. But some of the places, there was this one restaurant I think called Provisions that I liked, and it was like a sandwich shop, and on the door it said like open till 4:30-ish. And I loved it.
Did you make your way to Swig?
I stopped in Swig, and I didn't drink anything in Swig, and I sort of regret it because everyone's been asking about Swig, and I didn't get anything because I'm like a Diet Coke junkie, but I don't like things added, or I'm not very adventurous. Yeah, I'm a purist. Exactly.
Yeah. We waited in that long line.
We're like, we're here. We have to.
Yeah.
Was this dead of summer that you were there?
No, I was there in September, so it was.
Oh, nice.
It was just it was a weird time, but it was off season, and so everything was extra quiet, at least in the mountain area. But yeah, I loved Utah. I really did, and also that other Utah show came out on Hulu when I was there. It was like The Secret Mormon Wives or Secret Lives of Mormon.
We're all in.
Yeah.
So I was like watching that from my hotel room, and then the next day at hair and makeup or whatever, I'd be like, okay, who's watching this? And people would be like, oh, I know that girl, or I know, because it was all that area.
So wild.
So you mentioned being there for a week for pre-production. As a writer, how much creative control did you have? How much input did you get to have on set?
This was this was my first experience, so I didn't have a lot to compare it to, but I did get to go a week ahead of time and talk to our director about the character and some of the script stuff, because like I had said, Tracy had sort of taken my script and Hallmarkified it. And so a lot had changed from my initial version of it. And Jake was great about letting me kind of play around with the dialogue. And when I had suggestions of changes and stuff during that pre-production time, or just little things. I mean, there were all sorts of things that came up throughout the production and during that pre-production time. And everyone was really great about letting me kind of play around. And and I think the goal with everyone was just to make it as best it could be. And so, that was really the goal for everything.
So let me ask you, because on your podcast, obviously you talk a lot of Bravo content, a lot of Housewives content. So how was that transition from that reality drama, craziness, chaos to a Hallmark movie? What's that like for you?
It was great. I mean, I have a spin-off podcast called A Very Merry Iconic Podcast where I recap holiday movies, and we're on our 6th season now. And so I've always loved the holidays, and I always like to do other things outside of the Bravo Housewives stuff. So I have a couple books, and both of my books, one of them's holiday book called The Jolliest Bunch. It just came out in paperback, but none of my books really deal with Housewives stuff at all. And so I've always tried to do I love the world of Bravo and Housewives, and I love on my podcast Everything Iconic to be able to get to talk about that stuff. It's the best, and I have really the best time ever. But I've always tried to do other things, and I feel like I always get my drama out with the Housewives. Like, I like watching it on screen, but in my real life, I'm the least dramatic person ever. If I sort of notice with people in my life that they're maybe a little dramatic or something, I kind of run the opposite direction because I get it all out when I'm watching Housewives. And then the other work I like to keep separate. And I think I feel really lucky that Hallmark gave me a shot because I know most people kind of know me from the world of Bravo or that kind of thing. But I genuinely do love Hallmark and Hallmark Christmas movies and the holiday season in general. So it was it felt like a seamless transition. And also, by the way, if anyone is a Housewives fan out there, I mentioned like little, what they call Easter eggs, but I think you'll see some little Housewife references there that people who watch Housewives will be able to pick up on some of the little Housewife references.
That's fun. From our experience, I think there are a lot of people who watch Bravo who also watch Hallmark.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah. Because we're like Girls Gone Hallmark. So sometimes we'll share on our Instagram. Megan is a huge fan of Sister Wives. And so we'll see a lot of like DMs like, oh, you guys watch that too? I'm like, well, yes, it's not just Hallmark 24/7 for us. Like, we have a life outside of like what we do here. So
right. I noticed that too, because I've been talking about Hallmark on my show forever, that there's a lot of overlap with people. And I think the main sort of theme between them is an escapism. I think a lot of people watch both channels for escapism. And so even though the Bravo network is known for drama and fighting and that kind of stuff, I think ultimately what draws people to it is just an escape from everyday life. And like I said, with the drama, I watch it. That's where I get my drama. And it's like, I get it out of my system there. And so I find it really relaxing to watch Bravo. And because I've been watching it for so many years, it does feel like a little bit of an escape from my reality when I'm watching. And I think the same is true for Hallmark Channel, especially at Christmas time. People put it on, and the holidays are so stressful. It's like they just want to check out and be able to relax a little bit.
Megan just said this yesterday in an episode we recorded. You had mentioned about people going to Hallmark for joy. We're just looking for joy in our movies, right?
Yeah. Someone had shared that, a Hallmark actor, I think, had shared, like, we have this shared vision of just bringing joy into the world. And I think you're right about the escapism piece. Like, before we were Girls Gone Hallmark, when we would watch Hallmark in our house, like, I would almost always fall asleep. And not because I was bored, but because I just found it was so soothing. Like, my brain would just shut off, and I would just be like, there is no tension left in my body, and I'm out. And it was like a lullaby of a TV show to me. And obviously now I watch with a different perspective. But what was funny is I had seen a million Hallmark movies before we started this podcast. I couldn't have told you a writer. I couldn't have told you beyond Lacey Chabert, a single actor. I didn't know anything. And it's because they are the kind of content that just can kind of wash over you. You don't need to be super engaged to get value out of it. And now I have so much respect for the process and the people that make the movies. So I really like having that perspective. But I think you're right about the escapism piece.
Yeah, look, there is a formula to these movies. And of course, I was thrilled that they would let me play around with that formula a little bit. But I mentioned earlier about wanting to make a traditional Hallmark Christmas movie. And I was very adamant about that because I love that. I love that formula. And so I did want to play with it a little bit, but I didn't ever want it to feel like a parody, or, there's been movies, even I think Comedy Central did one that I thought was hilarious. It was sort of a parody of these Hallmark Christmas movies. And I always feel like we love these movies because of the formula. So I never want to, we could poke fun at the formula, but I never want it to feel like a parody or making fun of these kinds of movies, because we love these movies for a reason.
It's funny because I'm sure you've seen all of the Hallmark movie memes, that go around. And, there's one showing like the movie posters from a year and they all look identical.
Yeah.
And I get really defensive. I'm like, I don't think you know who Hallmark is in 2024, because yes, they are still that person, but there's actual entertainment happening here. It's not just a joke. These are, they have a mission, and these are real people putting their real work into these projects.
And even just from covering them on my podcast and hearing from other people who watch these and who love these movies, it's like a lot of people are sitting with their family or escaping, or people are watching from the hospital when they need an escape, or when they're going through a hard time, or, I think these movies are much more important than, look, we're not talking about Casablanca here, but I think these are important films for people in their lives, and people who are able to connect. And even nowadays, everyone's so disconnected and sort of in their social media bubbles, and the algorithms feeding us things that we all like. But these are also movies that everyone can kind of come together if they disagree with someone in their family politically, or with that, whatever, they can come together and watch it, and it's sort of a safe space for people to kind of connect throughout the year. And so, I don't know, I love these movies, and I think they are more important. And yeah, of course I love that poster of everyone looking the same. Like, it is funny, those memes. But yeah, I think they're special movies. I don't know, I love them. Some people are probably rolling their eyes at me, your listeners, but I love them.
No,
Absolutely not. I mean, our listeners,
they're all in.
yeah, they love these movies. They have such an affection for the community.
By the way, once you are kind of in that Hallmark fan club where you watch these movies, I do feel like there is it's almost a little bit like sports. Like, we keep up with these movies like sports now that the new movies are premiering. I don't know if you're all on like the checklist or whatever, but I'm like, okay, I saw the first movie this weekend, but I didn't see the Maori one or the Saturday night one. I'm like, okay, I got to watch those at some point, but like, you got to keep up. And then, yeah.
Yeah, you got to keep up, because you can fall behind quickly.
Yes. Hey, we're going to take a quick break for some ads, and we'll be right back.
I'm Cindy Lauper with fellow Cosentix advocate, Chef Michelle Bernstein.
We'll share our experiences with plaque psoriasis, with psoriatic arthritis, and Dr. Panico will talk about the possible connection.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis 300 milligram dose and adults with active psoriatic arthritis 150 milligram dose. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for TB. Serious allergic reactions, severe skin reactions that look like eczema, and an increased risk of infections, some fatal, have occurred. It may lower your ability to fight infections, so tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if IBD symptoms develop or worsen. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com/Cindy.
I won't let my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis symptoms define me.
Emerge as you. In 2 clinical studies, Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, provided 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks in 7 out of 10 adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. In a study, nearly 7 out of 10 patients with 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks were still clearer at 5 years. At 1 year and thereafter, patients and healthcare providers knew that Tremfya was being used. This may have increased results. Results may vary.
Serious allergic reactions may occur. Tremfya may increase your risk of infections and lower your ability to fight them. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms of infection, including fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough. Tell your doctor if you had a vaccine or plan to.
Emerge as you. Learn more about Tremfya, including important safety information, at tremfya.com or call 1-877-578-3527. See our ad in Food and Wine magazine. For patients prescribed Tremfya, cost support may be available.
I do want to talk about your books. Your first book is How Do I Unremember This? And heyo, New York Times bestseller. And you have a newer book, The Jolliest Bunch, which in my house, Christmas Vacation is a classic. We watch it every single year. So I have to assume you were inspired by the Griswolds.
Yeah. Of course, there's the iconic quote from Christmas Vacation where he says Santa's going to squeeze his butt down the chimney and see the jolliest bunch of a-holes this side of the nut house. And yeah, I love that movie. And the book, The Jolliest Bunch, it just came out in paperback a week ago or whatever. And I'm so proud of it. And anyone who's listening, if they're a holiday movie lover, if they're listening to this podcast, I'm sure they like holiday movies. But I really wanted to capture the vibe of those movies growing up. So they're all real life stories. So family vacations or family holidays and stuff like that. But each chapter is its own little story. And so I really wanted it to feel like all those Christmas movies that I loved growing up. And so anyone who likes maybe David Sedaris style writing, but holiday themed, check out The Jolliest Bunch. But
do you
I'm
have
proud of both of them.
A favorite holiday movie outside of the Hallmark world?
Probably Christmas Vacation. I love that movie. Home Alone. My mom is obsessed with a movie called The Gathering, which is a made-for-TV movie that was filmed in Chagrin Falls, and it's a little more dramatic. It's sort of Family Stone-ish, but I recently have come to appreciate it. But it's always been her all-time favorite movie. So every holiday season growing up, she'd be like, "Come on." I have 2 older brothers. She's like, "Come on, boys, let's watch it." And we would always say, "No, come on, we don't want to watch this stupid movie." And now that I've seen it, I love it.
I love that.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cheesy made-for-TV movie starring Ed Asner from the 70s, so it's sort of a weird cut.
Asner.
But I love the Family Stone and Elf and so many. Jingle All the Way. I can name a million of Santa Claus, so many of them.
We love the Santa Claus trilogy. Well, the first one. We watch the other 2 because we feel like we have to, but it's really
the second one I think has like really good moments in it. Like the second one, it's a little clunky overall, but the second one, like the highs to me are higher than even the first.
It's just such a shocking shift from like cute little young sweet Charlie to this like kind of annoying teenager Charlie. You're like, what happened to you?
I know. And did you watch the TV show? They brought Charlie back for one episode. It was so depressing. And I know it was made for kids. I don't have kids, and I still watched it.
Megan watches a lot of Christmas movies in her house. Her and her husband are huge. Well, her husband is a huge Christmas movie.
So Megan, do you have a schedule with your husband of like, we have to watch this one this year, or is it just whatever's on you watch?
Goodbye, I'll see my way out.
We don't have a schedule, but we make it a point to watch quite a few. Like we have regulars. I mean, Christmas Vacation for sure, Elf. I don't know if you've ever seen Fred Claus, but it has the best Christmas village of any of them visually. Love Actually, we watch them all, and they
sort of become a fabric of your life around the holidays. Yeah.
Yes. Even my son, who's 17 and going to college next year, hopefully, he joked. He was like, "Wait, you have to wait to watch Christmas Vacation when I come home." I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
That's sweet.
I'm glad that
raised him right.
Yeah, that he's internalized that as a required holiday tradition.
Yeah, to me that one just has the biggest laughs. Like still, I've seen it a million times, and I love that movie. And also structurally, it's a movie. As a writer, it's like I don't think that movie could necessarily get made today, The Christmas Vacation, because narratively, there's not really kind of like the structure that these movies have now. And so I love sort of the comedic style of it, how it's just these little vignettes of a holiday. And that's really why I named the book that, is I wanted to feel like these little vignettes of you could pick up a chapter and read it, and it feels like a little funny moment or a heartfelt moment, and then you could put it down and come back and read another chapter a different day.
Are you doing an audio version of that book by any chance?
Yeah, there's an audio version out now. Yeah, you can get it Audible, wherever. Yeah.
Yay! That's why I consume
the audiobook is
my
fun.
books. That's how I consume my books, so I'm super excited. Great.
Yeah, and I assume you do the audio.
I do. I did the audio for both of the books, and it was interesting because I'm a podcaster, and you guys know podcasting, you have sort of a voice that you do, or you're not even conscious of it, but you do a normal cadence and voice. And then with the audiobooks, it's a different cadence, and you have a director kind of saying, slow down here, or, directing you. So that was an interesting process, but I love the audiobooks. Yeah. Pick up The Jolly Sponge. Everyone listening, please get it. It's really funny.
I pre-ordered the paperback. As of the recording of this, the paperback is not out, but as of the airing of this, it will be. So it's on its way to me. But these books have a lot of you personally in them. Were you able to infuse any of your own personal stories into your movie?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm working on trying to translate the Jolly Sponge into a movie now, but for Deck the Walls, I mean, yeah, everything's sort of me. And so there's different things, even different little improvs or ad libs or something like that, that I think people will see and be like, oh, that's Danny. Or, if they listen to my show, they'll catch little things. And yeah, I was able to infuse. And also with the characters, and the lead character is Rose DeMonte. That's my grandma's maiden name. And so there's little things like that. There's a chocolate shop that is named after my mom's maiden name, Marish Chocolates. And so there's a lot of stuff like that is family or stuff from my real life that snuck in those ways, through names and different things like that.
Now, I don't know if you can share this or not, but does your character Sal have a love interest in this movie?
Yeah, I sort of have. Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, there's a wonderful actor, Claiborne Elder, who's in it, who people might know from The Gilded Age, or he was in Company on Broadway. So he and I, you'll see a little. Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much. But
okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'll tell you one good
so excited.
I'll spoil a funny story. So Clay he's the best, and we maybe play arch nemesis turned love, and you'll see. But there's one scene where I am singing, and it's like a little cutaway scene, and the joke is that I'm a terrible singer. And so I had on set, though I didn't realize that I'd have to sing the full song. So it's just going to be a quick little second of me singing. But I didn't realize I'd have to sing the full song for a whole room of extras, as well as Clay, who's a professional Broadway singer. And then the other part I didn't realize was I had to sing it, but they couldn't play the music. This is going to be confusing. So they couldn't play the music. So I'm singing a cappella to all these people. And I had an earpiece in so I could hear the music, but the way that they have to edit, they couldn't play the music part of it. Yeah. So I'm just singing a cappella to 70 extras and this Clay who's on Broadway. And I was thinking, I can't believe I'm the one doing this and he's standing right there, and people are going to be so mad at me for being the one who is singing in it. But all the extras too, they didn't really know what they were in for. And so they just knew that they were in a Hallmark Christmas movie as extras, and then they show up and I'm singing at them in the worst voice ever, a cappella, and I'm looking at their faces and I'm sweating because it's my nightmare. And I'm looking at their faces and I'm just seeing the extras is this supposed to be good? It. And I'm no, it'll be funny when you see it, but
I can't wait.
It all makes sense in a minute.
It'll make sense in a minute, but I think they were I'm looking at their faces just stone face, what's going on here? And then I'm looking at Clay and thinking God, he's got the most velvety, wonderful voice. He's on tour right now, singing in cabarets. And so.
You're can you dub his voice over mine, please?
I hope it'll turn out really funny. But it was, I ended up having to sing 2 different songs full way through, multiple takes. It was because you have to do it 4 or 5 times each. So by the end of it, I was I lived through a nightmare. It's I lived through singing a cappella in front of all these people. I could do anything.
Through a nightmare.
I would be well, that's it for my career as an actor. I am done. My heart cannot take this stress.
I'll tell you, I was so stressed. I'm sweating. They had to keep patting me down because I'm dripping sweat because I was so nervous about it. I'm just looking at everyone's faces. And then when I wrapped or finished that, everyone on the crew was that was so funny. And I'm thinking, oh no, it's funny because it's making fun of me. As long as I get the laugh, I'm fine with it. But yeah, everyone is that was so funny. And I'm oh my God, I'm going to look so bad. But hopefully it'll give people a laugh.
Oh, well, you mentioned earlier you haven't seen the final cut. Are you dying to see this scene?
Oh, yeah. I'm dying to see it. Yes, more than any other scene. I think it'll be really funny, and that's ultimately all I care about. But yeah, I'm dying to see that. There's so many things that I'm oh, I can't wait to see how that turns out. Or yeah, a lot of stuff.
All I'm envisioning is the karaoke scene in My Best Friend's Wedding where Cameron Diaz is the worst singer in the room, but they're all falling in love with her. So I'm sure that's the moment you're going to have.
Okay, well, hopefully I get that reaction by the end of it.
You'll get it from us. from our couches watching.
okay.
We'll be
Yeah, I'll
falling
give
in
you
love with
those Dermot Mulroney eyes.
Okay, well that's the inside scoop for all the listeners. Just know that the music you hear, I didn't hear that. It was just I had a little earpiece in that I could hear the music in my own head, but all the extras just had to hear me a cappella.
Oh my gosh. Awesome.
Love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There was also it was fascinating to me because it was there were 2 Christmas songs and they're royalty free, and so there's like interesting things that like you can't sing for copyright purposes. So that was fascinating.
Sure. So you mentioned Jolliest Bunch and perhaps working that into a movie. Is that a movie you would like to sell to Hallmark, or do you see something different for that?
I think that one's a little more hard R, or maybe not R rated, but it's a little more risque.
It's a little Netflixier.
Yeah. If you read the book, I have a little bit of a naughty mouth in real life,
So do we.
Yeah. So that one's just a little bit. It's a little bit more in the style of Christmas Vacation, I'd say tonally. But I would kill to work with Hallmark again. I mean, I would love nothing more. I mean, even on set, I was like, okay, here's my idea for the sequel. I was like, I'm ready to go. Like, just say the words. I'm ready to write the sequel. And I was asking, I'm like, Wes, Ashley, are you guys in for the sequel? Clay, who's coming back? Who wants to do it? And I think the producers and everyone was like, okay, slow down, Danny. But I would love to keep working with them or to keep acting with them or writing something for them. Yeah, I would love to.
Awesome.
Do you have, you're a podcaster, you're a writer, you're an actor. Do you have a favorite creative outlet, or do you love like getting to stretch each muscle separately?
I like getting to do all sorts of different stuff. I mean, that was always my dream and goal. And I had moved here for acting. And so I kind of was feeling like that ship had maybe sailed for me because my podcast led me into all these other opportunities, which was fantastic. And I'm so grateful. But I always wanted to be able to act. And so getting to kind of flex that muscle to me was the most fun part of this project. But I hope to be able to get to just do all sorts of stuff. I love hosting. I writing is probably where I feel most comfortable, just behind a computer and getting to play around with dialogue or something like that. But I hope to get to keep doing all of it.
Do you like to be busy?
Oh yeah. Can you tell? Yeah.
Well, look, I'm not comparing what we do to what you do, but like with Bravo and with Hallmark, like it's a tight turnaround when you're like talking about things happening, in the pop culture moment. So you kind of don't have a lot of like, when it's going, you got to go. And then you have all these other things. So are you always like looking for the next break, or are you like, keep it coming? Like don't slow down, Bravo.
I like to keep working, and I feel like I'm best when I'm working, and I have a little stability there. And also, these are just dreams I've had forever, and I guess I sort of feel like I never had people sort of knocking on my door saying, "Come act in this thing," or "Come write a book," or something. So I always sort of had to hustle to get these projects off the ground. Even with both my books, every major publisher turned me down. I ended up signing with an independent publisher, and my first book ended up doing really well. But or even with the Hallmark movie, it was like I wanted to do it, but they had, like I said, they have sort of their stable of writers and people they use, and so I thought, okay, I guess I'm gonna have to just write this on for free and hope that they see it and like it and try to hustle. So I never really felt like I could slow down. It was always like, well, if I want to make this happen, I just sort of have to keep pushing for it or fighting for it or find another outlet. If a major company doesn't want to make my book, maybe I can find an independent publisher. Or with podcasting, it was like initially I'd pitched my podcast I guess I've been doing it 7 years now, or since 2017. I don't know what year we're in now. But I had initially pitched it to a company, but no one wanted it. And I was like, okay, I'll just figure out how to upload it myself and how to record myself. And so I felt like the only way to kind of get these things in front of people is to hustle and keep working. And then as that was happening, as other opportunities came my way, I'll sort of seize them or whatever. But yeah, did I answer the question? I don't know if I answered it.
I loved everything you said. So
okay.
It hit right here, right?
Yeah,
Didn't
I
it?
was like, oh, I love that. Like, you're making it happen. Like, you're not waiting for it to come to you.
And with acting too, it was like I recently had started to get, I had an agent and I started to audition for more and more, but there's not a lot of roles for gay characters, and maybe by my makeup, it's just who I am. And I'm not getting brought in for straight male roles, and so it's a very small pool and there's not a lot of opportunities. So it's like, okay, well, I have to figure out another way here. Is there a way that I can write a role that is suited for me, or is there a way that I think it's all about kind of playing Tetris and trying to find out how you could fit into these worlds if you do want to do something. And as you both know with podcasting, it's like, it's hard. And sometimes you see with some more famous podcasters, they get a deal. Sometimes I'll read about these deals where so-and-so got a deal at Spotify or wherever. And, we're hustling and recording and editing and trying to get people to listen without a major company backing us. And it's very challenging. And it's hard to sometimes navigate that and figure out, okay, well, how am I going to bring listeners in? Even after you create content that you're proud of, it's like, how do I get people to come in and listen to this or share it with friends or whatever. And it's always just about figuring out that equation of how to make it work.
I just had this vision for you. We spoke to another Hallmark writer, Kimberly Sestad, recently, and she was talking about how she and her co-writer, Paul Campbell, wrote their first Hallmark script on spec and sold it to Hallmark. And now they're like,
they're a
Hallmark's go-to writers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're writing easily going to be one of the biggest hit movies of this season. And so while you were talking, I'm like, that's going to be Danny's path. Like, he's in, and I just,
like Russell Hainland.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He was a new writer to Hallmark 2 years ago.
Yeah. And he has 3 Hallmark movies this year and a Netflix movie. So yeah, I'm like, it's all happening.
It's going to happen. It's all happening for you. And you talked about like hosting. I'm like, I can see you hosting like Hallmark. I mean, if you want to, like, I don't know anything about anything, but I'm like, Hallmark Plus, there's tons, Hallmark Plus has a streamer, or Hallmark has a streamer now. There's so many opportunities there.
Yeah, they're leaning in on reality television over there.
Yeah, they got that great. I haven't seen it yet, but I know they're doing Finding Mr. Christmas.
Yeah, that hasn't started yet, but with Jonathan Bennett.
Yeah, it's a fun reality. It looks great. Reality show. And Lacey's got a reality show on Hallmark Plus.
That's right.
And Wes Brown also has one.
Too.
It's The Christmas Light. He was telling me all about it. It sounds so great.
And then they also have a renovation with Luke McFarlane.
How hot is Luke McFarlane?
I know. When he left Hallmark, like he made an announcement like he was leaving Hallmark, and he did Bros and he did Platonic, but he's back. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad he's doing both, because
I know. Well, nowadays I think anything that sort of feels authentic to the audience is they'll accept. And I felt the same way when Luke was sort of hinting or saying that he was leaving Hallmark. I'm like, why? We love you over there. Like, you can still do those other things, and the Hallmark audience will all go watch you in those other things. But
absolutely,
Hallmark, we love our stable of people. Like, I don't want to see Lacey going other places,
right.
or I still want her to keep doing Hallmark. Great that she's also doing a Netflix one, but then, we still want to see you on Hallmark.
Written by a Hallmark writer.
So obviously we've talked all what you have going on. Where's the best place for people to keep up with you?
Everyone can go to my Instagram is @DannyPellegrino on Twitter, Instagram, and all those places. And then, I'll try to post more as we're leading up to the movie. I'm so excited for people to start to see little clips and footage and stuff from it, because I'm dying to see it. But I think it's going to be really sweet. We air the day after Thanksgiving, and then we're also going to be airing after the following day after the Chiefs movie, so people can catch it all weekend.
Oh, Hallmark loves you.
I feel like that must be a good sign, right? That we're airing after the Chiefs movie.
Absolutely.
Very good sign. You're already on a great weekend of great movies, and you're going to air after the Chiefs movie. Like, that's
and I feel like that one's going to be good too. Like that, I've heard things about the Chiefs movie.
That's definitely Hallmark's darling this year. It's definitely their.
Yeah, I don't know what we did to get that post slot from them, but we'll be that whole Thanksgiving weekend. Hopefully, you'll be able to see us, and then I think they air on maybe Peacock after or something.
Yeah, they're
this year.
live
So-
and on demand for. It used to be 72 hours on Peacock, but I think they've now given them a longer on-demand window on Peacock.
But it will be really funny. It's a traditional Hallmark Christmas movie with some little fun switches and a lot of laughs and a lot of romance and great stuff. I'm so proud of it, and I think it's going to be really wonderful. So I hope people will watch it.
Will we do a Countdown to Christmas bracket after all the movies have aired every season?
I know you do, and I'm nervous about where we'll end up on it.
Well, here's the thing, though. What happens is people rally their social media followings, and there's always like
A dark horse
that comes in. So
Okay, so
you
we're going to have to work
that-
on this.
Yes, you have that social media following to swoop in. So we
need everyone to hashtag Duck the Walls, post about it, tag me, tag the two of you. We'll get it going. Whatever I have to do.
Awesome. That's amazing.
Danny, thank you so much for talking to us about this movie. We can't wait to watch it. It premieres Friday, November 29th on the Hallmark Channel. And again, after a holiday touchdown on Saturday, November 30th. Thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Gone Hallmark, a Bramble Jam podcast. If you love this podcast, we love your 5-star ratings and reviews. Hop into the Apple Podcast app and let everybody know what you love about Girls Gone Hallmark. Thanks again, Danny.
Yes, wait, can I interrupt you about that?
Please.
I'm going to interrupt you. Okay, yes, it's very important. We were talking about independent podcasting and trying to get listeners and stuff like that. And I know sometimes when we say, as hosts of these podcasts, we say, go rate and review, go leave us a nice review, share with a friend. A lot of listeners, they hear it and they kind of let it go. But it is really important for growing these shows. So if you're someone who listens to this podcast right now, you obviously just listen to it. Give these gals a nice 5-star review. Go on your Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you listen. And it takes 2 seconds, maybe 30 seconds, right? That's how long it takes. And it's a free podcast. Just go do it and share if you did like this, go share with a friend, go tell someone who else might like it, because it is hard to get people to listen to these things. And so sometimes I feel like even on my own show, if I say, give a positive review. If you don't like it, don't leave a review. But just move on. But if you did like this podcast, it's like 30 seconds, and it really does help a lot for sharing and spreading the word and stuff. So at the very least, just maybe hop on for me for the Hallmarkies podcast.
That's so nice. Well, I'm just going to cut that and copy and paste it at the end of every episode from here on out. Thank you so much. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.
All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product.
I won't let my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis symptoms define me.
Emerge as you. In 2 clinical studies, Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, provided 90% clear skin at 16 weeks in 7 out of 10 adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. In a study, nearly 7 out of 10 patients with 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks were still clear at 5 years. At 1 year and thereafter, patients and healthcare providers knew that Tremfya was being used. This may have increased results. Results may vary.
Serious allergic reactions may occur. Tremfya may increase your risk of infections and lower your ability to fight them. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms of infection, including fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough. Tell your doctor if you had a vaccine or plan to.
Emerge as you. Learn more about Tremfya, including important safety information at tremfya.com or call 1-877-578-3527. See our ad in Food and Wine magazine. For patients prescribed Tremfya, cost support may be available.
This Thanksgiving, Target makes hosting easy with our lowest prices of the season, like Good and Gather premium turkey for 79 cents a pound and quality green beans for 55 cents. Or classic stovetop stuffing on sale for $1.99 and delicious favorite day apple or pumpkin pie for only $4.49. Plus, get unlimited same-day delivery with a free 14-day trial of Target Circle 360 to make planning even easier. Save more on hosting. Happier holidays from Target. Restrictions apply.
Bye.
I won't let my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis symptoms define me.
Emerge as you. In 2 clinical studies, Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, provided 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks in 7 out of 10 adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. In a study, nearly 7 out of 10 patients with 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks were still clearer at 5 years. At 1 year and thereafter, patients and healthcare providers knew that Tremfya was being used. This may have increased results. Results may vary.
Serious allergic reactions may occur. Tremfya may increase your risk of infections and lower your ability to fight them. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms of infection, including fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough. Tell your doctor if you had a vaccine or plan to.
Emerge as you. Learn more about Tremfya, including important safety information at tremfya.com or call 1-877-578-3527. See our ad in Food and Wine magazine. For patients prescribed Tremfya, cost support may be available.
This Thanksgiving, Target makes hosting easy with our lowest prices of the season. Like Good and Gather premium turkey for 79 cents a pound and quality green beans for only 55 cents. Save more on hosting. Happier holidays from Target. Restrictions apply.
I won't let my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis symptoms define me.
Emerge as you. In 2 clinical studies, Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, provided 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks in 7 out of 10 adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. In a study, nearly 7 out of 10 patients with 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks were still clearer at 5 years. At 1 year and thereafter, patients and healthcare providers knew that Tremfya was being used. This may have increased results. Results may vary.
Serious allergic reactions may occur. Tremfya may increase your risk of infections and lower your ability to fight them. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms of infection, including fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough. Tell your doctor if you had a vaccine or plan to.
Emerge as you. Learn more about Tremfya, including important safety information at tremfya.com or call 1-877-578-3527. See our ad in Food and Wine magazine. For patients prescribed Tremfya, cost support may be available.
This Thanksgiving, Target makes hosting easy with our lowest prices of the season. Like Good and Gather premium turkey for 79 cents a pound and quality green beans for 55 cents. Or classic stovetop stuffing on sale for $1.99 and delicious favorite day apple or pumpkin pie for only $4.49. Plus, get unlimited same-day delivery with a free 14-day trial of Target Circle 360 to make planning even easier. Save more on hosting. Happier holidays from Target. Restrictions apply.
I won't let my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis symptoms define me.
Emerge as you. In 2 clinical studies, Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, provided 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks in 7 out of 10 adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. In a study, nearly 7 out of 10 patients with 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks were still clearer at 5 years. At 1 year and thereafter, patients and healthcare providers knew that Tremfya was being used. This may have increased results. Results may vary.
Serious allergic reactions may occur. Tremfya may increase your risk of infections and lower your ability to fight them. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms of infection, including fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough. Tell your doctor if you had a vaccine or plan to.
Emerge as you. Learn more about Tremfya, including important safety information at tremfya.com or call 1-877-578-3527. See our ad in Food and Wine magazine. For patients prescribed Tremfya, cost support may be available.
This Thanksgiving, Target makes hosting easy with our lowest prices of the season. Like Good and Gather premium turkey for 79 cents a pound and quality green beans for 55 cents. Or classic stovetop stuffing on sale for $1.99 and delicious favorite day apple or pumpkin pie for only $4.49. Plus, get unlimited same-day delivery with a free 14-day trial of Target Circle 360 to make planning even easier. Save more on hosting. Happier holidays from Target. Restrictions apply.
I won't let my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis symptoms define me.
Emerge as you. In 2 clinical studies, Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, provided 90% clear skin at 16 weeks in 7 out of 10 adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. In a study, nearly 7 out of 10 patients with 90% clear skin at 16 weeks were still clear at 5 years. At 1 year and thereafter, patients and healthcare providers knew that Tremfya was being used. This may have increased results. Results may vary.
Serious allergic reactions may occur. Tremfya may increase your risk of infections and lower your ability to fight them. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms of infection, including fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough. Tell your doctor if you had a vaccine or plan to.
Emerge as you. Learn more about Tremfya, including important safety information at tremfya.com or call 1-877-578-3527. See our ad in Food and Wine magazine. For patients prescribed Tremfya, cost support may be available.